Good evening. Good evening. It's Alan. I am the host of the Connect. G'day. It is Alan. I am the host of the Connected Men's podcast. And usually, what I would do. G'day. It's Alan from the Connected Men's podcast. I am your host. Usually, what I would do is interview a man. I'd get to know who he is in the moment. So, what are the labels that he places on himself and society places upon him in the moment when we're doing the interview. We explore that a little bit, and then we go back in time and we explore how this man in front of me came to be. So as it says in the introduction, you could be in jail, you could be a father of 10 kids, and that could be your thing, could be your label. I can't even remember what the other one was. Oh yeah, you could be halfway on your goals, towards your goals. You could have achieved your goals. It doesn't really matter. It sort of does, but what we do is we explore who you are in the moment, and then we go back in time and we explore where you came from. So that is what the Connected Men's podcast is all about. This first cab off the rank is me. So as I said, my name is Alan Saunderson, and today I am interviewing myself. And who am I in this very moment, coming to your ears right now? I've got many labels, but the one that's really burning hot and really lights me up at the moment is the fact that I'm a men's work leader. I help men to reconnect and to explore, which is what we're doing here, and to expand. So look at our goals and our aspirations and that sort of thing, because it's very rare that you meet someone that is like 100% happy. Even those really successful people that I know anyway, I go and talk to them, and they have this feeling like, yes, I'm grounded and I'm competent and I'm accomplished, but they're rarely just sitting still saying that sort of thing. They're like, but the next thing I'm doing is XYZ. So yeah, that's part of the whole story. So that's where I'm at. The aim of this podcast is to, I'm still talking about the podcast. I should be talking about me. Okay. I think you get the idea of the podcast. The person hosting it, me, interviewing myself at the moment, I am a men's work leader. I help men to reconnect, explore and expand. There's some other labels that I've given myself. I've even written a few of them down. I've been a teacher, like with Education Queensland for about 15 years. What else have I done? I'm a carer at the moment. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I've done a lot of care work with the NDIS. I'm a father of two. The girls, so they're 5 and 8, my girls. Their mother, I don't have to tell you her age, but we broke up 2 years ago now, and that was a big moment in my life. And I know there's a lot of men out there that have gone in a similar situation, but that's not exactly what this podcast is about. But anyway, suffice to say, that was a big moment in my life. And I've changed a lot since then. Me personally, like my family, I'm from a family of 6. I've got 4 siblings. They're all still alive. I don't know why I had the inclination to tell you that, but they're all alive. My immediate family, looking upwards, if that's how you look at family trees. And they're a beautiful bunch of people, all individuals, all different. And I really love my family. It's a pretty simple one. Looking down, my 2 girls, I love them. 5 and 8, I've got a phone call from my sister who's not blood related. I'm going to decline her call. There we go. So that's me. I'm a family man, I guess you could say. I do men's work. I'm a teacher, carer. I've got a lot of hobbies and creativity. If you're watching the video at the moment, you can see guitars in the background. There's photographs I've done with students, just looking around. I can see a picture of my dad's race car. I'm into racing. So Dad does a lot of the mechanic stuff, and I do a lot of the driving stuff. Haven't driven for about a year. I drove a Mark 1 Cortina. As I said, Dad does all the work on it. I do all the braking. and he fixes it. I break it. What else is in my room? Another picture of my race car, a few artworks, a lot of calligraphy. So on the video, just over here, a bit of calligraphy. My daughter's artworks are in here. Music, I play a lot of music. So just in general, I would say in this moment, I'm a very creative person. I do a lot of writing. That would probably be my biggest passion at the moment. And I don't know if it's an accomplishment, I'm going to call it an accomplishment today, is the fact that maybe 6 months ago, I really looked up to those guys that I said before, like they're accomplished. And I'm like, oh, the recipe is they have this one thing that they're good at. They forget everything else, very masculine. They're like very focused on one thing and they just forget everything else and do that one thing. And I've really been trying to shove myself into that mold for a good 5-6 years. And it's just been in the last probably 6 months that I've just been thinking, okay, well, if I want to write something, I'll write it. If I want to play a song, I'll play a song. And I used to feel guilty that I could swap between the two and then do a bit of racing and then play a bit of Uno. That was a bit random. I just saw a Uno pack. But yeah, I do a lot of different things and I jump around. And it's just been the last 6 months that I have appreciated that in myself and not seen it as something that I need to feel guilty about. So yeah, that's a snapshot of me in the moment, I would say. What else? And this in men's spaces that I've been in, and personal development things. This moment of introducing yourself has been like a really difficult thing for me in the past. It seems like the most simple part of a introduction, but because I'm aware that not everything is going to get in there, you have to crunch your whole personality down into a few sentences. It's always been really scared me, and I always looked for that, like I said before, that accomplished person that has that one thing, and I can just go kablam, that's who I am, that thing there. I'm different to that. So yeah, and I've given you, how long have I been talking? 6 minutes there. There's no person in the world that can live for 40 years, that's how old I am, and then crunch into 6 minutes who they are. So I'm beginning to learn that. And the fact that there's so much about me that is unknown, that you do not know, unless you're my sister who is listening to this, and she's the one that pushed me towards recording my first podcast. She might know a bit more about me and more in depth. My daughters do. But if you don't know me and you've listened to me for 6 minutes, 7 minutes, probably 8 minutes now, you will know more. And it's as simple as that. Something that people that do know me know is that I do like to take up space with how much I talk. As a little kid, I didn't talk at all. Oh, I did, but I was very shy. I didn't talk much. When I got to about 20 and then onwards, I could talk a lot more. Sometimes it's about absolutely random things. But yeah, for me, it was an accomplishment to be able to speak that much. And I've gone through a journey where I speak a lot about nothing. And just in my more maturing age now, I'm able to be more focused with what I say less to say more. And that's another journey. But let's put a full stop on the snapshot of me in the moment. That's me. Hopefully you can hear through my voice the sort of man I am. I was just about to go into another foray of explaining myself. But that's me. That's a snapshot. Let's put a full stop on it. And now let's look back into my history. And again, I don't think we're going to completely 100% figure out how I came to be the man I am, but I'm sure we can explore some of the salient moments, some of the moments throughout my life that have made me the man that I am. I wrote down a few little notes, but I'm not going to rely on them too much. So where did it all begin for me? I was born in Ipswich. I'm now in I'm living in Woolkaraka now, which is in Ipswich, a suburb of Ipswich. So I was born in Ipswich in 1982 to Gary and Leela Saunderson. This is becoming a bit of a boring biography, but yeah, where you're born I think is really important, and who your family is really important. So born in Ipswich in a family of 6, as I've already said. I was very shy growing up, and something that comes to mind right now is I had maybe I've always thought it was unique, but I have memories that go back quite far. So I remember an age that I think, from what I can remember, is about the age of like 9 months, like being in my cot and things happening. No, that sounded like it could have been sus, but being in my cot and being aware of stuff at really young age. Yeah, I always find that important to. It's an important part of my story, and I'm probably leaving out some information there, so I'm going to put it in. And I was really hot, and I didn't like the clothes I was wearing, and I felt really hot, claustrophobic, and that has stuck with me for a long time. But other things around that age I can remember and have a really long memory. Yeah, I could. That's a whole story in itself. But yeah, I feel that's an important part of my story. Is like just my general awareness. I don't think I'm any guru or anything like that, but I do have an awareness, which I think is a little bit quite open, really. Anyway, there we are. So my best friend, I'm going to say his name, Tom Phillips. We met pretty young, and we still know each other now. So that's a good over 3 decades we've known each other. I'm just thinking now, what are the salient points that sort of brought me to who I am? I was a very quiet, average sort of student in primary school. Because I am aware, like I was saying, I can very much blend in. I would usually know more about what is going, not in general, but know more about what is happening in a group than most other kids. And this is salient, this is important. I knew in about grade 2, when my teachers were teaching and they would say something to the class wouldn't get it. Even if I didn't get it, I would understand. I felt anyway that I understood whether the other kids got it or not, regardless of whether I got it. And so from a really young age, I was very critical of my teachers in my own head. And from that young age, I think I was destined to work in groups and to work as a teacher. Probably just for the simple fact that I was so bloody critical in my head of my teachers. I was like, yeah, constantly bagging them. And that went all the way through high school. I always felt like I knew whether people got it or didn't get it, or how they felt about subject matter that was being brought up, or I just had a general feel for groups and communication. As I've got older, I've got better at communicating. The younger I have been, the less I've communicated. But I've always been an aware person, which is a good thing for someone that is a communicator. So high school, a little bit of an outcast, not an outcast. Yeah, okay, I'm going with the outcast label. Me and my mate, we rode BMXs, and at a time well after the BMX Bandits movie, there's 3 of us, Michael, Tom and me. We loved BMX at a time that BMX was not, it had seen its day of being cool. And literally, I can look out the window and see my bike that I rode in high school. So it's important to me. So we rode bikes like a lot, and a little bit about like we sort of didn't care that we were outcast. We thought we were pretty special. And that outcast label, some of these things we put upon ourselves. So whether I've put it on myself or whether other people have put it on me, that has been a big part of my story. It probably goes further back than BMXing, but anyway, that's part of my story. I rode a lot of BMX. Yeah, and it's in my blood. Wheels are in my blood, and yeah, I love racing as well. Anything else about high school? Yeah, there is. Swimming. I did a lot of swimming, and I I didn't like it. And this is like a bit of a sore point for me. Like, I've got really loving parents, and they've instilled a lot of values. They've given me a lot, and I speak about them very reverently or irrelevant. No, I don't know the big word, but I love my parents. And I did a lot of swimming. My sister's a very natural swimmer, like a natural swimmer that works hard. She's got a disposition to work hard, as a lot of people in my family do. And I think I sort of got pulled along and into the swimming fray. And I don't think it was good for me. In the long run, maybe it has been, but it has been like quite, my mum will hate me saying this, but traumatic. Like freezing cold water, something you're not good at, just like beating your head against a brick wall to get better at it. And I'm quite a good swimmer now. I can swim well under 30 seconds for 50 meters freestyle. And I enjoy swimming now. And I have got a lot out of swimming, but it has been a challenge to get those lessons, let me tell you. I don't have time to go into it, but suffice to say, that's probably one of the bigger, it's not even a moment because it went over so many years. One of the defining something in swimming has affected my life. I'll leave it at that. I wish another person was in the room now and they could say, they could give me a really good question about it and I could tell you. They'd probably say, why? Why did it affect my life? Because it was so bloody difficult. I didn't like it. It was cold. I wasn't very good at it. It was time intensive. Yeah. Yeah. And I was instilled with the idea, a lot of really useful things that have served me well. One that I have personally disagreed with is that if you work hard at something, you will succeed. That is not the truth, but it's not my truth anyway. But working hard is something that is really something I value. Something else I was going to say about, there's a little quote that out of all those years of not enjoying it, and I've only made this quote in the last couple of years. I should be able to remember it now, but it is something along the lines of just because it is difficult. There you go. I'm going to have to write that. I don't know what it is. It'll come to me. I'm going to move on. But anyway, swimming, big part of my life. And I can swim pretty well now. And it's just, strangely enough, I've just got back into this cold water thing with it's like my mum was maybe 30 years ahead of Wim Hof. She's the original Wim Hof. She's like, cold water, get the hell in there. She just doesn't have the accent of Wim Hof. Anyway, love my mum. So that's what I finished high school in 2000. A little bit lost. I really wanted to, how are we going for time? 20 minutes. I really wanted to be an artist, and like old school artist. Like, I remember talking to my counselor and I said, I want to paint. And he had an American accent. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. And I was like, he goes, what would you like to paint? And I said, portraits. And he kept sort of immediately, he was like, well, that's very narrow. And then I was like, very focused, and like as I was saying before, those accomplished people, they know exactly what they want to do, and they go and do it, and it's focused. They get rid of everything else. That's sort of, I've valued that even at that younger age, and he didn't like it, and he was saying, hey, try some other things, and he was probably thinking, who the hell is a portrait painter these days? Like, you're not going to make money doing that. However, I went to art university. Yeah, I made myself the outcast there, I think. So immediately when I started art university, I got a lot better at music. Mum gave me a guitar at 16. I didn't think I'd ever play it, but as soon as I played it, I didn't put it down. I really accelerated with my music when I was about, how old are you when you go to uni? 19. And so as soon as I did art, I'd be like, oh, I'm a bit of a pain in the butt, some people might say, but a bit of if everything's going that way, I'll just do it the other way. And I think that comes, I've been thinking about it lately, I think it comes from an inner want of freedom. So if everyone's been told to do an assessment this way, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it this other way, not because I'm a smart ass, but because I want freedom. Like, I want to be able to choose what I'm doing. I want anything and everything and nothing, but that's what freedom is to me. So yeah, and I found that in music, because I've had no formal training, and the way I've taught myself is to just play a note. I could even play the first three notes I used, and then I would learn like two notes and the relationship between them, and then play two notes and think I'm the best guitarist for about 2 weeks, and then go, oh, I'll just add this other little one on, and it was like a painting, really. And then so that center of the painting got painted, and then 6 months later I just added a little bit more on, and then I took a bit off, put a bit more on, and just the painting got bigger and bigger and bigger. And with no formal training, that it's quite a daunting task, because there's like hundreds of, I'm getting off track here, but this is important to me. I play music every day. There's hundreds of years of history that has gone into our scales, the Western scales of music. And I still, to this day, I'm like, well, you made those scales up. Who made the scales up? Why? What's up with that? And I still can't just accept scales. I'm learning a lot about theory, and I'm learning a lot about the ability to go trust the wisdom of history and other people, and be like, well, if I just play the scale, it has this particular feeling. That's cool. I didn't have to work it out. I did not have to spend 10 years sorting out what a C major scale is, which I don't know what that is really, but I'm learning to trust other histories and ideas and other people's wisdom. Don't have to build that painting myself all the time. Anyway, that's a little bit of that's not a sidetrack. That's me. I play music every day. I'm creative, and that's that's exactly what I'm talking about. Didn't think I would get a job, so the counsellor was correct. What am I saying? Talking about him. To some degree, he was correct, because I was at uni, and he had maybe his American accent like wove its way into my head, and within 1 year of introduction to art, I was like, oh dang, there's no way I can get a job out of this. And then what did I do then? I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do, it just seemed like a really safe, but aligned as well. And this is a big decision in my life, and it's just been recently that it's made its peace with me. I'm like, was I just scared and went and did a safe option, which was teaching? Or was I destined to be a teacher? And I think it's both. I definitely like safety, and survival is one of my values, which has been a recent revelation to me. But yeah, I think I took a safe option and a destined option. I think I am destined I was destined and I am destined to be a teacher. So yeah, I'm grateful for myself that I made that decision. Like, my parents didn't force it, but as soon as they heard that that's the decision, they were like, thank Christ for that. So yeah, that was, again, I don't have to get into it, but that's a big pivotal moment in my life when I decided to do teaching. And let me tell you, I was not a natural teacher. I was a nervous, yeah, I did not take to it like a duck to water. I'm very creative. I'm in my own, I was very creative. I was in my head a lot at that age. I lacked a lot of confidence. I didn't have a lot of experience. And then I was put into teaching, and another pivotal moment that comes to mind is when I was doing my prac. I was on my last prac. No, second prac, where I actually had to teach. And I basically had an anxiety attack. I haven't told many people this. I've told people, but not many. Yeah, I had an anxiety attack in front of a class, and I froze, and it was like I had my awareness opened even more to the point where my body couldn't deal with it, and I just stood there, and all the typical signs of anxiety. Of an anxiety attack, and I was like, wow. And then my I'm laughing at it now, but my prac teacher, she said, it was like one of those moments where people like cough, and like tumbleweed went through the background, some crickets just went crank crank crank, and my prac teacher, she stepped in and she said, oh, just want to go, I can't remember what she said. I can't remember anything really. And she said, oh, just go collect your thoughts or something like that. And she was quite supportive really. And there's a bathroom near the classroom. It was like attached to the classroom. Like, it's really weird. It was destined. And I went to the bathroom and I put a bit of water on my face. And it was like, this is definitely a big moment. I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was like, it felt like I've got an image in my head of, I won't do it justice if I describe it. It's like the peak of a mountain. Yeah, I'm getting very abstract in my head at the moment, but it was a very pivotal moment. And then it was like the universe said to me, it's like I said to me, I was like, are you tough enough to do this or you're not? And it was like the first time in my life I was like, this was harder than swimming. And it was like swimming made me strong enough to go, you can do this. You can do this. And I was like, all right, I am very tough. I can do this. And then I walked back. I had a deep breath, well before breathing was a fashion. Had a deep breath. I went back out, and the teacher said, are you right to continue? And I said, yep. And she said, are you sure? And I was like, I'm sure. And to tell you the truth, I wasn't. I was still scared. And I was like, I basically had an anxiety attack and then walked out 5 minutes later, and not even 5 minutes. I was just like, 3 minutes, came out, and I'm like, I'm ready. Come on, life, let's do it. And on reflection, that was there's a shadow side to that decision and there's a light side to that decision, because let me think of my quote. It's slowly coming to me. Things that are worthwhile are painful, but just because it's painful does not mean it's worthwhile. There you go. It's something along those lines. So let me skip forward just a little bit. In these last 5 years, with my ex, with other influential people in my life, people that I really respect, they have given up on things and it's taken me to that age of 35 to be like, well done. Like, I respect their decision. They're like, yeah, I started a job. This isn't my ex, but I'm just as a random person. Anyway, it's not any particular person, but a person might say, I started a job and I didn't like it. So I quit. And all through my life, I've been taught that's a bad thing. And it took me till about 35, and I'm like, I'll say the word, fuck yeah. Well done. You didn't like the job, so you quit. Well done. Why couldn't I learn that when I was 20? When I was doing that, when I had the strength to get through that moment. And yeah, like it's not that simple though, is it? Maybe it is, but because it's this, I could give that situation a quote as well. It's like, I'm not going to, but like, there's a shadow side and a light side to that person who quit the job. Like, if they really looked inside, I'm judging them at the moment, but that's what I do. If they really looked inside themselves and they're honest with themselves and they had that mirror moment and they're like, this is not for me, and they made that decision, that's when I say, fuck yeah. But if they're like, if they've had like, it doesn't even matter if they've done it 10 times. Let's say they've quit 10 jobs and every single time it was that true, honest, fuck, I don't want to do this job. If I can feel that in a person and I'm about to judge them, I say, fuck yeah. But if they, the shadow side is if they've gone through 10 jobs, they've got to 95% of each job and they're like, the boss is like, I need 100% please. And they're like, oh, fuck you. Then I don't respect that. But yeah, and in those two examples, the shadow side, the light side, that's where a lot of my learning has happened in my whole life. But particularly in the last couple of years, I've come to peace with it, I'd say. For example, I can bring it right up to the present day. Went to a breathing thing, it's very relevant because it's about early morning, it's about cold water, and it's about breathing. And I had to travel to get there. Travel is a bit of a new thing, but I had to get up at 5:30, which is a very swimmer sort of a time. And last night I was going to do this, actually. I was going to record this, and here we are at half an hour. I went to bed at 11:30 and got up at 5:30. If I started this thing here, I would have got to bed very late, and because I'm a hardcore motherfucker, I just would have got up and went to that thing. My eyes just wouldn't have been working, and it's unsafe, really. But because I'm a hard motherfucker, I just get up and go. So, and even my sister's voice, who's helping me do this podcast, pushing me a bit in a really healthy way, even her voice was in my head saying, just do it. And I had a moment where I was like, it's 11:30. I'm going to bed. So what I did is recorded the intro with the music on it, and I was like, if I want to go to this thing tomorrow, I need to go to bed now. Otherwise, it's not even otherwise. If I'm going to this thing tomorrow, I need to go to bed. So yeah, I hope you get the picture. I definitely get it for myself, that hardness on myself is a big part of my learning. Yeah, and brings me to the point. I'll skip ahead a few years. I think I missed a full stop in there somewhere, but anyway, let's move on. I taught it in Nala, which is if you're from Brisbane, it's like a rougher place of Brisbane. So I was a bit scared. There was another school I taught at before that, but only for a year. Went to Inala, a bit scared to go there, but I taught there for 7 years, and I loved it. I really loved it. I think, a lot of Indigenous students, a lot of Polynesian students, a lot of Vietnamese students, a lot of white students, and it's where I really learnt how to teach. I was teaching art, And if I were to be very, very honest, I did not have a mentor. I've always been looking for a mentor. I didn't have a mentor to guide me through on how to teach. Like, I didn't have a swimming coach for my teaching career. And that is a complex statement in itself, but I didn't have a mentor. And I was not a very good teacher in terms of getting the curriculum delivered and knowing what the curriculum is. My nature, like I said before, I was in grade 2, even in preschool, I was aware of what my teachers were doing. So I feel like teaching comes from this deeper place, and in that, I'm fucking awesome. And the students notice that. They're like, yeah, we know that you don't know what you're talking about. But on that other stuff, soon as it's about people, you know us. And that's why I have gravitated. That's why I haven't given up on teaching. It's almost like I don't have control of it. I'm like drawn to it. Whether I grasp it or not, I'm drawn to it. And an example that comes to mind of how I would teach, it's more like art therapy. I was basically doing art therapy. I was not teaching art. So like if a student is doing an abstract Pollock sort of a inspired artwork, like splash painting across a page, and then they're splashing it all in the middle of the page, I would be, all right, and I would coach them through it. So let's do the hard work of getting the newspaper down, and then you're going to be expressive. And you see this one you've already done, you keep avoiding the edge. And then if they're a sensitive student, they might get the metaphor of that. You're avoiding this particular thing. We've done the hard work, you're going to breathe and you're going to get through this. And then it's okay, and I would show them how to do it. So I'm going to do one. And look at that, I went straight off the edge. And now let's stand back, let's get rid of the newspaper, let's look at the two artworks. And like, oh yeah, I'm scared. And I'm like, cool, so I'm like dealing with this scaredness and other personal development sort of things, not really teaching art. And I was not successful at moderation and verification and stuff like that. But I know in myself that the connections I made there, the work I did had an effect. And that sort of teaching really developed in those 7 years. Got to a point, it was getting a bit stressful. I really loved the community. How long were we there? 40 minutes. I'm not going to tell you how long this is going for. I'm just going to do it until I'm finished. What did I do? Taught there for 7 years, and this is probably the start of my adult personal development, really. Because things were comfortable. The community knowed me. The community accepted me, and I don't often, because I say it to myself with that outcast thing, I often make myself the outsider, or other people do. Doesn't really matter. But the reality is I am sometimes on the outside, and that community accepted me, and that was a hard thing to leave. I was like, I could feel real love from that school, and I was like, but I got to go. And it's like there was some things I wasn't happy with, like I didn't have a mentor, but still dragged my own ass through. There was just some things like the education side of things. I was like, it's just not fitting me. I need to change. I knew it at a deeper level, and that was like the first point in my life. Maybe it wasn't the first point, but it was a poignant moment where I was like, well, things aren't the way I want them. There's a lot of comfort here, there's a lot of love, but that's not good enough. And then I decided I needed to make a change. And the mother of my 2 girls, I was with her at that point in my life, and I said, I need to change. I need to get out of this school. And I think it was even a shock to her. She was like, yeah, but you love the school. And I was like, yeah, I do. But I want to move. I need to make a change. And I was really quite frustrated. And I remember literally talking about mentors, but on a deeper spiritual thing. And I was like taking it out on my partner. I was like, I was swearing and probably crying, I don't know. I was like, where the fuck is my mentor? Who the, and yeah, really angry with the world because I didn't have like a Mr. Miyagi. I'd watched Karate Kid that many times. No, I didn't watch it that many times, but I've watched a lot of movies where the person going through it, the hero's journey, they have a Mr. Miyagi, or they have someone that's fucking real smart and real strong and usually they're real quiet. They're really smart ass bloody guru types. I was looking for that and I was like, where the fuck's my fucking mentor? And I was like, just angry. And I was like, well, I'm fucking leaving. And so I pulled up the transfers, and the first thing that popped up was Bowen, probably because it starts with a B. And it was at the top of the list, and I was like, I think I remember, and I was like, Bowen, yeah, whatever. Clicked on that, and then I typed in Bowen in the computer, and the palm tree came up, and I was like, yeah, I'll probably get that one. And then I put in another 20 or so, and then I got Bowen, and I was like, looked it back up, and I was like, oh, that's the palm tree one I looked up, cool. It's on the beach, all right, let's do it. So I picked up all my life, my partner, we went up to Bowen, and yeah, that was a big moment. I thought that all these changes were making such a big change. I think it's about 1,000 kilometres up north, up the coast. I thought with such a change in my life, it's going to have to do something. And I was actually correct. I was very correct. But did it fix all my problems? No. They all followed me up there. And there's a particular style of school. It used to be called the State Schools of Tomorrow School, which is a low socio-economic school, which, if it gets that classification, it gets more funding. And then often the teachers are required to do more unofficially. So I left a school that was classified like that, and then without realising it, I went very far away and put myself in exactly the same classification of school. And I was there, I don't even think I was taught for a year there. I was there for 6 months, and all this sort of same stuff where I just don't match. I don't seem to match the style of teaching that is expected. And the thing that got me through, and has got me through a lot of my career, is like my adaptability and my creativity. So I would be using my creativity instead of making portraits or awesome shit. I'd be using my creativity to get through a structure that I'm not suited to. And you can only do that for so long. And my deep teacher in me has also got me through, because people generally respect that. They're like, oh, yeah, well, that's Alan. That's how he is, or Mr. Allen, or Mr. Saunderson. And I have an interesting way of doing stuff. And I got through, and then I just was like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And I had enough years of teaching to be able to have long service leave. Went on long service leave. The principal was really supportive. I wouldn't say supportive, but the picture in my head, maybe I thought she was like my swim coach or something. That's a bit deep, isn't it? My swim coach is an awesome dude too. Maybe I thought she was my mentor or something, and I was expecting her to be like, let's say I thought she was Mr. Miyagi. And then I went in there and I said, oh, I just can't do this. And, my mental health is a bit not right. And then she's like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. It's a bit like, I can imagine, like, if you're gay and then you come out to someone, and the typical thing where they're like, yeah, I already knew, so whatever. It was a bit of a moment like that. And I was like, oh, so yeah, not quite supportive, but just not as oppositional as I predicted it to be. And she was like, yeah. And it's like the universe was saying, yeah, well, you could have done that 5 years ago if you wanted. But anyway, yeah, okay, yeah, you can go long service leave, I don't care. And that's what I did. And that was I've had a lot of big moments. Everyone does. So I went on long service leave, and it felt like I was like bound up for so many years, and then given this time and space with no structure, it's like my psyche couldn't deal with it, and I basically had a psychotic episode. And also, to be very honest, finding out that my partner was pregnant, I think that also came to me, because I was just sort of saying to myself, okay, well, as I was on long service leave and having a bit of time to think, I was like, I don't think I'm going back. I can't. And then when I made that, almost got into that full realization, I then found out that I was going to have a kid. And I was like, oh, guess how do I make money? I think I've got to go teaching, and which is not the truth. I could have done a whole range of other things, and I did. I looked for other things, but maybe it's just that I'm destined to be a teacher. Like, I still got. Anyway, I had a psychotic episode. I walked around Bowen, did just like for hours upon hours, and just had a really. If you look up in a textbook what a manic episode is, that's what I had. Like, and it went for a couple of weeks, and I seem to have this indigenous connection. I feel funny saying this, but I only usually say it in real private places. But I felt like I was walking through indigenous stories. Like, there are all these indigenous stories everywhere. Still, running through all the cars and places and roads, like they were existing together, and I was like just walking through it all. That's what it felt like. And I could do a whole hour on the ideas I had then. I wrote a story when I was there. It was about China, and it was to be honest, it's like paranoid, but based in reality somehow, because 10 years later it's a bit more accepted to have an issue with China. And it wasn't that I had an issue with China, but I was a bit scared of it, and I've changed how I think about it. But there was a lot of Chinese themes, a lot of indigenous stuff that I felt like I was connected to. And the short of it is, I ended up in Mackay in a mental ward. And then I had, our lives are full of these moments, pivotal moments, or just moments where like, wow. And I got put on like a stretcher, like almost like a straitjacket, like transferred from Bowen to Mackay. And I definitely wasn't being violent or anything. But I just had this moment when I was in the crazy home. No, I shouldn't call it that. In the mental ward, and I was like, what the hell just happened? I was like, 6 months ago or so, I was teaching in Inala. Now I have no job. I'm in a mental ward. I'm about to have a baby. I was like, what is happening? What the fuck is happening? And I didn't get... So full stop on that. The next thing I feel like called to tell you is I feel my awareness that I've spoken about, which I've known about since I was since I was not 9 months old or earlier, and all through my teaching career and as a student, my awareness helps me get through things, but it has a shadow side as well. So I've watched enough movies like Karate Kid and enough other movies where a paranoid person is painted in the movie, and I'm like, okay, well, I've got all the information for what a crazy person looks like. I just won't do that shit. And I must have failed because I ended up in the mental ward. But if you walked into the mental ward, I still dressed quite nicely and stuff, and you sat down like many times in that whole thing, I had people that worked there that would be like, I'd often get this question, who are you here? Who are you? I assumed I was a worker, not a patient. And part of that is, I think, a deep thing, like I am like a caring sort of person. And part of that is I've watched enough movies to know what crazy looks like, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do all the crazy shit. I'll just act normal. But yeah, that's a complex little thing. We came back to Ipswich and had the baby called Grace in Ipswich, and and to tell you the truth, the darkest moments happened back in Ipswich. I felt like my life had fallen apart, and I felt like, when like things fall apart, you're like, okay, everything's fallen to shit, but at least I'm free. And I felt like, fuck, I've given up all this shit, everything's fallen to shit, and I'm still trapped, and I'm not free, and I'm back in Ipswich, and I'm not teaching. I've just been stripped of all this stuff with no advantage. It felt like a double whammy. It's like, well, all spiritual people say, let go, release, don't attach. And I was like, well, fucking, I did that, and look at where the fuck I am now. I was pretty angry, and I was like, well, I got nothing except being fucking trapped still. So that was a really dark time in my life, and something I've been blessed with was a very strong partner. I know things happen for strange reasons, and life is a beautiful, interesting thing. There's plenty of let's look at it the other way. People as strong and beautiful as my ex are rare. So she was very, very strong to have a baby and deal with my spiritual awakening at the same time. She had a beautiful baby called Grace, and I don't know how I got through all that, but I feel like I rely on deeper things sometimes. So when that fatherness mode is triggered, I was like, well, fuck, I know deep shit. I know father. I know, like, I might not know the curriculum, but I know how to teach. I might not know what the fuck's going on, but I know what a father is. And that could be attributed to my father. It could be attributed to a lot of things. But I was like, I know this father shit. I got it. And I got myself through that. Full stop. Breathe out. And met another really great person in my life. It's like the Mr. Miyagi I was looking for, but they're never like what you expect. I was looking for, like, literally, like, I'm pretty skilled and qualified, but I couldn't get a job. And I rang up, I think Alice, even my ex, mentioned, maybe you should try a driver instructor. And I rang up ProDrive, and in all these places I was looking for jobs, I kept trying to ring the manager, the boss. I just felt that's what I should do. I kept missing him. He's a pretty busy person. And all the people in the office are like, oh, it's this guy again. And then when I got on to the boss, Dave, his name is, he's like, g'day, how you going? And I was like, yeah, good. And it was like a good Mr. Miyagi, in my eyes anyway, is one that's like, I'm a caring person, but I'm not gonna care for you. And that's not quite exactly what Dave was, but he was like, I don't know what, it was just like a loving presence when nothing else made, get a bit teary here. Nothing else in my life made sense. And I spoke to this guy on the phone, and he's like, the tone that I got out of his voice was like, man, I'm fucking glad you called me. Why? I don't know. And he was just like, yeah, you can work for me. When do you want to start? And he was just like really, really supportive without taking away my freedom. And that's a really good mix in a person. So I'm really grateful for that. And he, I got a lot of respect for him. And then a lot of it I don't even understand. I'm just like, he's a person I respect. And yeah, little story that pops to mind is like, I didn't have trust in the process. I was like, in a pretty bad way in some sense. And I kept ringing up every day and I was like, you sure I can start on whatever fucking day it was? You sure I can start on Tuesday? And he's like, yeah. And like, Dave seems like a person that can be calm in chaos. He's like, yeah, there's chaos. Yeah. And his answer is, yeah, you can start on Tuesday. And I'll be like, well, have you got the car? And he's like, it's not here at the moment. I said, yeah. So can I still? So I wasn't trusting of him or anything. I was like, so can I start on Tuesday? He's like, yeah. I said, have you got the car? No. When do you get the car back? He said, it'll be back soon. I was like, what if you don't? He's like, I don't know. I'll give you another car. I don't care. And that, yeah, just on so many levels, that was like a really just an awesome thing to be involved with. And on reflection just now, I feel it's probably the first time in my life that I don't want to call him a Mr. Miyagi. The first time in my life I had a role model. First time in my life I had someone that I considered to be above me, that I actually respect, an idol maybe. So first time in my life that someone was above me that I respect and was not my family. So he's like the first person I met outside of my family in some sense that was similar to a family, because respect. So yeah, it's like I felt like I was 16, to tell you the truth. I was like, maybe not that young. I felt like I was 19. I was like, I've been institutionalized in schools for this long, and I do not, oh, that came out a bit weird, do not respect anyone that worked above me. Not that they were bad people, but they just didn't have my respect. And so it was like the first time I found someone stronger, bigger, someone I looked up to that was not in my family. Full stop. Thanks, Dave. You're a good fella. Thank you. How long have we been going? Almost an hour. So I did driver instructing for a while, which is teaching again. And if you really would like to, all you Ed Queensland teachers that are good at curriculum, if you would like to test yourself, jump in a car and teach someone to drive. Because when you're coming up to a corner and you say the wrong thing, it's a very good test for the teacher. So yeah, that was a really cool time in my life to be able to do that job with a man, and just a man that was, Dave's not perfect, let me tell you. He's not perfect. Neither am I. But that doesn't matter. Great time in my life to pass Dave, being involved with Dave's life. Yeah. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I moved. Somehow I got my cousin, Tanya, who is, I'll get in trouble for saying this. She is someone that's in my, she is my cousin, but she is not like blood cousin, but she's in the family structure of cousin, and every part of family that you could think, she is our family. Yeah, so I love my cousin, and somehow I was talking to her and she said, come along to the school I'm working at and do a day relief teaching at the special school. And that's what I did. And because this has been going for 1 hour now, let's just say I worked there for 7 years or so. And I kept getting pulled back into it. Like, it's as many great people as I met there and learnt, it's taken me a long time to learn that Ed Queensland teaching, Western teaching is not for me. or if it is, it's like in very small doses, and it's not something I'm going to be doing when I'm 80. Or I hope not many people are. But see, that's my idea of teaching. When I'm 80, I will still be teaching. So that energy does not fit into an Ed Queensland school. Anyway, I taught there for 7 years. Had a few mental relapses, I guess you'd call it. Had another daughter, little Frances. She's a beautiful little thing. And where does that bring me to? I am now currently, I don't work at that school anymore. It got to a point when I left Inala, I did it consciously. I was like, I can't understand it, but I'm making the decision. With the one when I left the special school, I was like, this is so painful that I have to leave. And it was a good lesson for me. It's like, try to go back as you move forward. Rely a little bit more on that thing that you did when you left Inala. You're not understand it quite, but you're going to make the decision before it is like excruciatingly painful. Make the decision out of love and logic, not out of pain. So I left that school out of pain. Really so much love there, so many great things, but I was like, this is not fitting me, and it's like breaking me apart. So I left there and went and worked at a NDIS company called Focal, where I did care work, did a little photography group, and again, I find it difficult to work in companies, whether it's Ed Queensland, which is a government company, which has its own things. And then I went and worked for a private company that felt like a government company, and it still doesn't fit me. So I listened to that lesson, and I was like, it's comfortable here. It doesn't fit you. So make the decision before it gets too painful. And I did that, which was quite a difficult decision, but I'm proud of the fact that I did it. And I now currently do private work with the NDIS. I really love. I do some supply teaching, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and I do men's work. Men's work is what's becoming my primary thing. It's my primary thing. It's my, as those accomplished people focus on that one thing, that is it for me, men's work. And obviously I'm a teacher, so men's work leader, but I think a lot of teaching will be involved with that. And those other things of caring and the supply teaching, I actually feel really grateful that I can have jobs like that with the flexibility. I've sort of made it flexible. I've sort of made teaching fit me now, and really like doing supply teaching. So yeah, that's a long story. Where am I looking for the future? I might have to do that in another podcast, but suffice to say, men's work, helping men to reconnect, explore, and expand is a big thing for me. I've just got a lot of creativity. I've got a lot of creativity in me, and I feel there are lessons in there, and it's teaching. So instead of, like I was saying before, instead of feeling guilty that I write stuff, the stuff that I write about very naturally is men's stuff, men's work. And there's lessons in there, and there's teachings, and it's aligned with men's work. And my music, it is also something that exists on its own. Like, I'm a musician, but it can serve men's work. And it's a really great, I'm not going to go into how great it is and why it's so aligned, but trust me, it's fucking great. So yeah, that's the future for me. It's men's work, and having that space to let some of my creativity stand on its own. The writing, I think, actually will always serve men's work, but I think my music will stand on its own a little bit. I just that unknown. I'm looking forward to that as I get older. It's like being creative and helping other men to reconnect, explore, and expand. And my voice is getting slower, so that is telling me that I must have finished my first interview with myself. If you would like to hear more, not about me, about other people, then subscribe to the Connected Men's podcast on Spotify and iTunes. I'm pretty sure that's where my sister's going to help me put them. I hope so, because I put it in the intro that it's on Spotify. So sis, if that's not where it's going, you have to redo the intro. What else can I say? Yes, follow us on there. Most of my stuff is under Alan Saunderson on Facebook. I've got Big Al Story on YouTube. I've got a lot of things. I'm just going through a process of really figuring out what I want to get rid of and what I want to keep. But Big Al Story on YouTube and Facebook, where a lot of my story stuff goes. I might even put the video of this on there because it's a bit of a story. I'm looking forward to really getting aligned with all the little things I do and how they can serve me and men's work. Oh, that's me done. Make sure you subscribe. And if you know someone that would be a good fit for this podcast, as I said, they don't have to be accomplished. I think everyone in their own way is accomplished. I think after hearing what I've said, I think you get the idea. It's like if you're a man that's grounded and has like taken ownership of like where you are in the moment, and you're not making excuses about your past, then that's the sort of man that I want to interview. So like I said, you could be in jail, you could be a mechanic, you could be a politician, probably not though. But yeah, there's a whole range of men out there that own where they're at and they're just really honest with their past. And that's where I'm at, guys. So thank you very much for listening. Aho. And inshallah. I don't know why I said that. I never say that. All right, thanks for listening.